Friends and family, how's it going? Welcome back. This is another edition of We've Got Issues, where we, your new best friends, come to you every so often with subjects from our text thread. We've known each other for 40 years, and we've known you guys for almost a year now. So hopefully you guys will. Has it been that long? I don't know. But listen, we're bringing you thoughts from our text thread that we think are relevant to what's going on in the world. Sometimes they're big topics. Sometimes they're small, so you never know what you're going to get. But this week will be no different than any other, where we'll have one of us lead the discussion. But before we get into it, let's introduce who we've got here. We've got my man Ron Evans. How's it going, man? Got his SC swag on. We're doing good with that. Darren Gray, who's Detroit's own. And of course Ella Neely, who is an LA native and one of our great friends. And my name is Nick Cates. And with that said, let's get right into it. And Ron, it's your turn to take us into the mind of your greatness.
Oh, yeah. Or the depths of my depravity. Both things can be true.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we're all at a stage of life that we sort of look towards the future and retirement and things that we want to do later in life. And I've also been very reflective of what was my journey like and what was it for? What was the pursuit of work, education, money? What was it all for? And did it resonate with the people that I cared about? So my question is going to be a very simple one. What would you want a family member or friend to say about you at your funeral? And Nick, I think we have a clip.
What if we could go to our own funeral? Who would come to your funeral? Who would be sitting on the front row? What would they say about you at your funeral? I think the better question for us to ask ourselves is, what would you want people to say about you? Because whatever that thing is that you want them to say about you at your funeral, that's your new definition of success in this life. And my question is how does your current life, the way you are currently living your life now, how does it feed into what you want people to say?
So keeping in my theme of we're not going to go macro, we're going to go micro. I'm going to ask each of you that question. What would you want a friend or family member to say about you at your funeral? And let's have a conversation about what does that say about how we feel about ourselves and what we want, what we think is important. So who's going to go first?
You don't want to lead that, huh? You don't want to lead your okay. Does anybody have a burning thought about it? Darren, last time Ron led, you were first up, so we're gonna let you delay. We're gonna delay your response on this one. And Ella, why don't you say what comes to mind? And we'll probably go back around a few times, but what comes to mind immediately for you?
So I'm going to say it like the person would say it. Okay. You know what I mean? So I'm going to, Ella Lorraine was my friend, and she continued to evolve over time. She was a different person with each decade of her life. She was adamant about growing, learning, and being the best person she could be. She liked to entertain. She always was good for a card party. She had a big heart. She always had a bed for someone who needed a landing spot for a while. She was a hard ass. She believed in providing opportunities and making sure people worked and understood the value of everything that was obtained. She was a badass. She used to wear this necklace that said badass 261. And 261 was the bib number of the first woman to run the Boston Marathon, because she believed that life is a marathon and not a sprint. And so I just want to say thank you to her and give her tribute for all the love that she's given to all of her family and friends. Ella Lorraine.
Wow.
Well, guys, that's our show. I'm
Oh, there we go. That's
joining us
it.
today. This
Let's
was-
roll because nobody can do that.
Thank you for joining us today. You now have Ella's life story, and I don't know that anyone's going to say that, but you can definitely print that in the obituary.
Wow.
But there's a lot there, obviously. Ron, you your response?
What if you had to look at all that you said and pull out the one or two themes of who Ella is or was? What are those one or two themes? I think badass sounds like one of the themes.
You know what? And I missed a very important part, which was Ella was Mackenzie's mother. That was a whole section that I forgot. Ooh, Lord. It's
Edit that
You're
in.
gonna be in trouble.
You feel
I think
that
we have to
afterwards.
restart the show just so you can, edit that in.
Put that in post, Nick.
so I think that was so what part the
What's the most
badass
important defining element that you want to be known for?
being a great mother, being a mother, being a business owner, loving my family and friends.
So Darren, let's jump over to you. What's your take on it?
I feel having to go after Ella.
Yeah, we're all inadequate after Ella. So don't worry about it.
Not even after showing your time. Like why would you put me there? But so when I first saw the text from Nick, I went back to my childhood. Darren was here, now he's gone. He leaves his name to carry on. Those who knew him well. Those who didn't go. So.
Those who didn't what?
Can go to hell. That's what we used to say when I was growing up. So we went there. But what I would want, and it's going to sound corny, is the embodiment of the Trojan, what's carved on the bottom of Tommy Trojan. And that's faithful, scholarly, skillful, courageous, and ambitious. And I think even before I went to USC, those were the things that embodied who I am in terms of my friendships, my relationships, being a dad, being a brother, a son. So I would want people to see my life through the lens of the code and the creed that I lived. So I would want them to say how, in their perspective, each of those characteristics came through to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Ron, are you headed toward any particular thesis, about this whole thing once we all are able to respond? Is there a thesis or a takeaway that we should be keeping in mind?
Yeah.
In your mind? Okay.
Yeah, there are four characteristics that people usually focus on when they review their life, and I'll definitely share that.
Okay. Because I want people to, we all have our point of view about what we'd like to have said about us, but I think the clip that we played, kind of set us up for a theme that we might want to go after. And as I think about the topic for myself, I vacillate between on one hand, and don't take this.
I'm sorry, Nick. I gotta ask. Ella put her heart on her sleeve, and Darren did a 30-second overview of what's said on the front of Tommy Trojan. Are we just gonna let that slide?
That's just who I am.
If you've got a question about it, please don't follow up.
Right.
That plaque. It's that plaque.
That plaque, yes, because
Black said it better than I could.
So those characteristics are defined, and even like I said before I came to USC, those were the characteristics that essentially have defined who I am. I did not know that that's what was on the thing of Tommy Trojan, but when I saw it, it resonated with me. Just like when I shared the poem "If," a couple of episodes ago, there are defining things that people have said historically that resonate with me in how I live my life.
And what does the plaque say again, Darren?
It talks about the characteristics of the Trojan: faithful, scholarly, courageous, faithful, scholarly, skillful, courageous, and ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the things that I've always have had the what I've what I strive to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you hope someone will say about you at your funeral.
That's what I want them to remember me as, and that's what I want them to speak to, because when you talk about faithful, and whether it's that as being a dad or being a husband, that I've always been there for them. Scholarly, being able to be that voice of reason and sharing my thoughts when people ask, whether it's my mentees or my sibs or my nieces and nephews or even my mom. And then skillful, that's just sort of where I've always been. Courageous, I've had to overcome a lot, and standing in the face of fear. I am not fearless. I am courageous in that even though I have those same fear, I will stand. I won't leave my post. I will stand in the face of the things that I fear. And then ambitious. I've never given up, striving to be better.
Mm. Ron, I don't know what the attributes that you're going to be driving at, but I can't think of, many more attributes than those that are really in short supply. If we take it from the micro to the macro, that are in short supply, kind of in our, our cultural moment, And so I'm not going all the way macro, but to Darren's point, I mean, I think those are things that if most people could have those things said about them on some level, I think you probably would have lived a pretty good life.
It was all work related, though. There was no emotion. It was no.
I don't take it that way. I don't take it that way.
Well, but I'm just speaking from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the thing that after death, the thing that I would want to hear as I approach the pearly gates is, "Well done, good and faithful servant." That's what I want to hear, but I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want that to set my.
We're not talking about God. We're talking about what is someone say at the church.
Yeah, I get it, but I'm saying is that's what I want to hear from my Savior is, "Well done, good and faithful servant."
Okay,
Ella, why is faithful and courageous and skillful and ambitious and all that? Why is that not global? It just seems like work related to you.
I'm not saying that it's not important.
It as his work experiences.
Yeah, I don't think that there's.
He mentioned being a father and a dad.
He said that in his preamble, but then when you got into the examples of Tommy T and what's on Tommy T, it was all work and industry related.
Exactly. There was nothing that relatable to people. It was always work. I bring in the money. I'm task oriented. I get it done. I'm faithful with it. It's nothing like, my daughter. It's nothing that has emotion.
You didn't say any of that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that's how it came across to me.
Oh, like I didn't say any of that.
Yeah.
I didn't work at all.
Yeah. I'm on your side, man. I think you're being misunderstood here.
I don't know.
Well, but it's not about being misunderstood. It's like how everybody takes it. Everybody has their own perception as to what they hear. And I think that that's the important thing, that when you communicate with people, everybody doesn't hear it the same way. And so you have to appreciate that and say, oh, because it's for your audience. I mean, a lot of times we talk and you want to communicate and you have to understand how they hear it. And so I think that that's important.
Right.
Well, I can't argue that
people, it's important for me. I say what I say and I mean what I mean, and people will interpret no matter what I say or do in their own lens, in their own experience. So it doesn't really matter how the audience hears it, because they're always going to see it through their own lens, and I can't control that. If I say to someone, you got to tough it out, there's a whole bunch of stuff from their past and their experience that might mean something different for. They may say you're not acknowledging my pain or what have you. I cannot control how people receive it. What you infer may be different than what I'm implying, and I can't control what you infer, nor do I try to.
So you don't feel like you have an obligation when you communicate to make sure that the recipient understands your intent?
Well, it doesn't matter if they understand it. It's how they feel about it, which is what I can't control. What they understand at an intellectual level may not be the same as how they feel.
And whose problem is that?
That is their problem. I can't.
Their problem.
It's
not your problem.
No,
it's not that you didn't communicate in a way that they could receive it. It's their problem from not understanding the style that you delivered it.
I can't control how they interpret it. There's just no way.
I got your point. I just want to make sure I heard it clearly. I got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So having said all that, like, we made mention of the themes of Ella's obituary that she did, and what do you feel? Do you feel that the life that Darren is living, even to this moment, speaks to the kind of words that he might want to hear at his funeral? Do you see those things, as being clear in your relationship with him?
You're asking me?
Yeah. I'll ask you.
I mean, I take Darren's words at face value. This is a moment of self-reflection, and if that's what he wants to be remembered as, that's fine.
Do you see that, though? Do you see what he wants to be reflected as, and the way he presents himself as being consistent?
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sounds like you're on track, my man. for good or otherwise, and of course,
it is what it is. It's gonna be.
Yeah. To Ron's point, right? Like, and your point, and I think this is, again, for those who may be listening in, I think there's something to be said on both sides, right? You try your best to communicate the thoughts that you want to portray, and that's the part that you can control. Now, what baggage or what perspective or whatever that other people bring to what you have said doesn't prove that you were not effective. It may say more about them than it does about you. You don't know, right? So you can't control that. But yeah, you want to be sensitive to it so that you have the best chance of getting your point across as possible. I thought that I received it in the way that you meant it, and it seemed on point. To Ron's point, seemed on point with the person you portrayed yourself as over these years. So I'll go ahead and dive in on my end.
A follow-up.
Oh, sure.
So you're at work, Darren, and someone is trying to persuade the department on a project. And they call a meeting and they deliver the PowerPoint, the spreadsheet, the whatever, and people just don't accept what they are trying to propose. Is that the fault of the people for not understanding the presenter's presentation, or the presenter's fault for not being able to communicate effectively?
I think it's situational, because if you are, let's say, a right-leaning person in a room of left-leaning people, everything you say there may be nothing that you can do to get them to listen to you because they're so biased against what you're saying. So it depends. It's very situational, especially in charged environments. If the people that you're talking to are predisposed to a particular position and you're presenting something contrary to that, there's nothing you can do. Now, if you give a bad presentation, that's on you. If you aren't clear in, like you put the wrong spreadsheet up, or you missed the point of the meeting, that's on you.
So wait. So let's set aside the political subtext that you did in the middle to the side. What you're now saying is, if they didn't prepare themselves well for the meeting, it's on the presenter.
Well, yeah. If you don't know the assignment, it's on you. But if you know the assignment and people don't agree with you, they don't like what you're saying, or you didn't convince your audience, you shot your shot.
And is it their fault?
There's no fault. You did not meet your objectives. There's no fault. You just didn't get your objective, because you may go into the meeting and you just don't win. You may not have the votes against, lined up. There are things that may be in play. I don't think it's as simple as whether you can convince everyone. like I'll give you a for instance in the current situation at the university with the finances and everything. A colleague of mine made very good points as to why she shouldn't be laid off, and they agree, and they still laid her off because they already had decided on what they wanted to have done. And so it doesn't matter how persuasive or how much evidence she had. They had a particular goal that was in mind. I think in every meeting and situational, you do the best that you can to prepare so that you can get your point across. But
Okay.
That's all you can do.
I got you. Thank you. Sorry, Nick. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. No worries. I mean, the circular thinking is that there's responsibility on both sides, the communicator and the communicated with. And they both bring certain responsibilities to the table. And sometimes, to Darren's point, I agree with you. Depending on the predisposition of the person, you may or may not be able to communicate, to them with a mountain of evidence. Doesn't matter, right? So yeah, just to keep the theme going here, I vacillate between caring and not caring, right? And I don't say that to be crass, but it has to do with my bigger existential thought about life and death, right? So does it really matter, in the grand scheme of things, what someone says at my funeral? Because it's so ephemeral anyway. That moment, that time is so ephemeral, and whether I will be able to appreciate it or not, having gone on to whatever the next plane is, don't know whether I would be able to appreciate it or not. But I guess the point that's being made is, what mark are you leaving behind to those who knew you or those who, had some influence over you? What I would want them to say, or what I would want my life to represent, is that Nick was true to himself, and he was true to those he cared about and the things that he cared about. Maybe that's why I resonate with what Darren was saying about the plaque, about courage, about ambition, about fidelity, those things. I think those are very powerful ideas. And if someone can say that you were faithful, and someone could say that you were ambitious, that you actually tried to do whatever it was you thought was important, and that they can say you were faithful, that when they needed you, you were there. And even when they didn't need you, you were there. I think those are some powerful things. I think the biggest question I have is how much I will benefit from it versus what other people may experience. And I think that's really what you're driving at. Like, we may or may not have any real appreciation about what's said about us when it's all said and done, but hopefully our impact has been felt in a positive way. So I'll just stop it there. Does that resonate at all, or am I just out in left field?
No, you're actually, and since I'm going to go last, I mean, I'll say that you actually keyed in on one of the four, mm-hmm. which is legacy focus. Mm-hmm. Some people at their funeral, they want to have words mentioned about them that describe what they are leaving behind. Relationships. I want someone to say that I was a good parent, a friend. I made an impact on society, my community, my family, someone else's family. So you're just talking about, I lived a true life and I left the place better for my time here. So you're very legacy focused. Yep.
Okay. So you've heard the three of us. So why don't you tie it up with a nice red bow?
All right. So I'm gonna veer more into Ella's lane. I'm not going to quote a statue.
Bring us your tire.
I tease. I'll quote a bumper sticker. No. I think that if I had a family member standing there talking about me, I'd want them to first tell an origin story of just being upper lower class and having grit, going to college and not understanding. I was first generation college, not understanding how the game was played, going into corporate America, not knowing how the game was played. I was first generation both. That I had the fortitude to go back and finish my degree because it was important. And that he was someone that said, if the goal is worthy, you work your tail off to achieve it. And those are the things that I would want them to think about. I'd want them to say that he was extremely loving, faithful husband and father. He thought the world of his family, and he wanted to make darn sure that they didn't stand in financial aid lines like he did and his friends did. And he worked hard and put the family goals before his own goals. And that he wanted to build a legacy. So not only will his children never stand in a financial aid line or take out a student loan, but his grandchildren that he may or may never meet will also not do that. And he and his wife were focused on changing the family arc and making the move from no money to new money to old money, which takes 3 generations. He and his wife put that in motion through not only financial means, but passing on business knowledge and financial literacy to his children, his wife, the mentees that he has along the way, both at work and nephews, cousins that didn't benefit from USC Business School. He made an impact on people's lives, and he set his family arc in a different direction, and they're better for his grit and determination. So that's what I would say.
Well, that's pretty powerful.
I love
stuff.
that.
We're going deep here today, going deep into our family story, our origin stories here.
Well, thank you, but I'd say you're half right.
Uh-huh. In what way? Oh, like in other words, Darren and I didn't, you and Ellen.
No. But you were good. I'm teasing you, Nick.
Yeah.
But
Darren, I'm not teasing.
Well, it's funny. Like Ron, you are very thematic about that part of your origin story and your goals, your financial goals. In almost every sense of it, because that's who you are. And it's just, it's something that I've always admired about you, because your single determination on, doing that. I grew up probably a rung below you in terms of where we were social economic class. And so I get that part of it, wanting to change the arc of your family. Something that struck me recently, my mentor and predecessor for my job, he passed away. He was at the university for 30 some odd years and made a tremendous impact. And
did we know him?
No, you don't know him. You may have met him once, over at the Blue House. His name, the Asian guy, Larry Lim. You probably met him, once or twice while we were undergrads.
Okay.
But what struck me is when we did his, we had a little memorial for him and everything, and I created a plaque. And I was going to my office one day, and I said, "That's really what it's all about. No matter how much work, how much things you do, you're just a plaque on the wall." And every time I walk around the university, I look at, all of the people who were there at the university and the buildings named to them, really, in essence, you just end up being a plaque on the wall. There are some people who are transcendent, like Lincoln, Frederick Douglass. There are some people who their name goes on for centuries, but most of us just end up being a plaque on the wall. And when you walk by, somebody's statue or something like that, most of us don't really, think about them. And that struck me because I thought about what is it that, legacy that I want to leave behind. And in a generation, won't even be thought about, just won't be thought about. My great grandkids probably will be like, yeah, we had a grandfather who did these things, but it'll be in passing. And so it was just something that struck me in terms of what legacy actually really means.
So I'm going to push back on that because I think that the Kennedys may not have ever met Joe Kennedy when he was bootlegging, but people will still tell stories about somebody from the 1920s. And I think that families still, I tell my children about my mom that they never met. I think that if you have stories to pass down about what mom and dad and, grandma and grandpa did, I think those are meaningful. I
don't dismiss, the meaningful. I'm just saying that it was just sobering.
Yeah.
It was sobering to see, someone who has such a tremendous impact on the work that I do and on me in particular. I pass by his plaque every day, but that's really the only time I think about him is when I pass by his plaque because they're right by the coffee machine. But, it's just one of those things that was just really sobering. Or, when I go I was on campus this weekend and I was in GFS, one of the buildings on campus, and there was a plaque of somebody. And I went up and I looked at it, and that plaque was there when I was a student there. Never looked at it before, but I was there waiting for somebody, and I was like, plaque on the wall. That's, it wasn't, Salvatore, the guy whose name the building is named after. But, every time I see those plaques, I go, that's what it really boils down to. You're just a plaque on the wall.
Yeah, well, thank you for letting Nick and I know that GFS is a building on campus.
I wasn't speaking to you. I was speaking to the audience who's listening in.
That's fair. You're right. My bad. I think one of the things that led me to this type of introspection is someone once told me that our children write our epitaph. And what would they say? And in my case and in your case, Darren, you have 2 kids. So Ella, you've got 1 kid, so there's only 1 epitaph, and you got to worry about that. When you have multiple kids, it forces you to think, am I treating them both fairly, equally? And in my case, when our youngest daughter was younger, she was dragged along to soccer, and she was going with her older sister to soccer, and she was being dragged along. And it really hit me when she was probably in high school that would they write the same epitaph? And the answer is heck no. No, they would absolutely would not. And that in itself was a call to action, because you have to ask yourself, the only people that are going to really remember you and be telling your stories are your family. And what are they going to say? And if you don't like what they're going to say, you might want to start today in helping change that narrative, because that's what they're going to say. And it may be different than what you want them to say. And I know in my case, with our youngest, it's like, I got work to do.
My mom told me something about that when it came to my kids and even most recently with my grandkids. She said, you will not treat your children fairly or equally. The best you can do is treat them individually. And that's really what I focus in on. They have different needs. They have different wants. Their relationships are different. Mm-hmm. And it varies depending upon the day of the week. And so I work on treating them as an individual, not fairly, not equally. I don't go like, well, I gave this one this much, I got to give that. I don't do that. It's just based on them, because, they're family, but they're unique people.
Yeah.
So I think friendships are like family. I mean, I don't think of it as a plaque on the wall. I mean, there's some things that we've experienced, some loving gatherings that will stay with me for the rest of my life. And I think that we all are successful in our own rights, but the things that really are profound are how we treat each other. I know that when I went to Virginia and visited with you and your family, Ron, it was like it fed my soul on a level that I didn't even understand that I needed. And I will remember that all for the rest of my life. And I will just remember the lovingness of the closeness of the family and their interaction and the games and the playfulness. And when I think of my father, there's no plaque that could ever, I mean, the love that I feel is just embodies who I am. And, you know, I just, it's like you got to go deep. You got to open yourself up to experiencing and expressing these things, because I know that it makes a difference. And it's not all about work. It's all about, you know, the love that we give each other. I mean, I know I talk to my daughter 3-4 times a day, and because she calls me, because she wants to talk to her mother, she wants connection. And a lot of times it's not about, you know, what we, you know, we just have to show up sometimes, and we just have to listen. And these relationships matter. I mean, I'm here right now with you guys because it matters, and it makes me grow. It makes me explore areas of me that is not work related, and just to be a better person. So I just want to thank you guys for that. But it's so much more than just a thing. It's about relationships. It's about connecting. It's about growing. It's about being the best that you can be.
Yeah.
So, and I love, Ron, what you said. I mean, it makes you think about who you want to be. And sometimes, you know, it's narrow who you want to be, or you don't care what people think. But when I think about the people that matter to me, I want to care about what they say about how I treated them.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I mean, and this is for the people who are watching, excuse me. You know, I noticed that we've brought together a lot of different things that have come up today about a theme that I think is really important to keep in mind. And that is that we can't control what other people are going to say about us. That was something that Darren mentioned early on. And I'm going to say this because of the four of us, I'm the only one who does not have natural born children of my own, right? So the way I come at this is different, and the way I see it is different. And I tend to observe that parents take too much credit or blame for what their kids do and what their kids say. This is where I resonate with Darren, where it's like, listen, and it has to do with your parents, your spouse, your children, your whatever. Like, you cannot determine how someone is going to receive that which you give. You could be the most generous, you could be the most kind, you could be the most instructive, whatever. But at the end of the day, that will fall on fertile ground sometimes. It will fall on thorny ground sometimes. It will fall on rocky ground sometimes. And sometimes it'll take root, and you will get the response that you want. But more importantly, from as not selfish a place as possible, what you do in this world is your offering. And some people will receive it, and some people will not, whether it's your children. Like, if your children grow up to be crack addicts, or, you know, or living on the street or whatever, and you did the best that you could for them, does their life speak for you? Well, maybe yes, maybe no, right? Like, so the epitaph that you leave is not necessarily just based on what your children say or how they live their lives, right? You have to take responsibility for what's yours. They take responsibility for what's theirs. And sometimes those things are aligned. In the best case scenario, they are aligned. And in some cases, they are not. And at your death, when you are gone, you hope that people will be honest. People will say that you tried. People will say that you were, you know, in my view, that's what I want. That Nick that he thought big. He tried to do his best. He tried the think in the most expansive way possible. But what the last thing I'll say on this is that it's clear to me now about the three of you that your origin stories are so like present, like where you come from, where you came out of to get where you are today is super present in your thinking, in your day-to-day thinking, in a way that as I reflect on my own thing, my origin story has very little impact on how I think about the world. Like I don't think about I came from there and I'm now here. I only think about where I'm here now and where I want to go, right? And so it's an interesting dynamic, but it's clear from Ella's obituary, Ron, what you said, and Darren, I think you've been clear over all these weeks, and Ron too, over all these broadcasts that we've done, that you came from a very specific place. And I guess to sum up what I'm saying is that the thing that I resonate most with is that nobody cares about your thing as much as you do. It's very important to you, but it may not be as important to everybody else. So the best you can hope for is that they were honest about what you tried to do.
Nick, when you say that, the parents can't be blamed if the child turns out to be a crackhead, I'm reminded of the fatherly advice given by Chris Rock. A man's only got one job.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your daughter off the pole.
Off the pole.
And the next part of that is because if she's on the pole, she got some daddy issues.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, an extreme bit as part of the stand-up routine. But I do believe that there is truth to the fact that our kids are learning behaviors, and if they are not listening to mom and dad and they're listening to Johnny on the corner, there's a reason for that. There's a disconnect.
Let me just interrupt you with this because I'm going to tell you something you already know.
Go.
People of your generation,
Yes,
people
sir.
that are older than you and people that are younger than you have lots of parental issues. There are people who have real issues with their parents, and they did not stop them from achieving a good life.
No, I agree. But I thought what you were saying is that the parental influence ends at a certain time, and the kids can't blame their childhood or their state on their parents or what their parents did or didn't do. And to that, I'm not sure I agree.
Well, I think sometimes there's alignment. Sometimes you teach them good values, and they live out those good values, and hopefully that's more often the case than not. But everyone has a decision to make. It's not just that your parents said go right and you always went right. Sometimes you went left. I know I did. Sometimes my parents said, don't go do that thing. That's not going to be good for you. And I did it anyway. Right.
But that's a great example, because in that case, you knew that you were deviating from a moral direction.
Right.
You chose to do it.
Right.
But you had the foundation of knowing right from wrong.
But what if I did that? What if I did it, Ron, and it cost me? I paid the ultimate price. It cost me my life because they said to do this. I decided not to do it. I did the opposite. It cost me my life. Do people get to say about your family, wow, they lost their son early, so it must have something to do with them? The point that I'm trying to make is that there's something to be said for good parenting and wanting to do everything that you're best by your kids.
Yeah.
But you can't take too much credit, nor can you take too much blame on how they turn out, because to Darren's point, they're all individuals, right? So one child's going to take it one way, the other child may not.
Okay, so I'm actually arguing now against my position because I'm reflecting upon that Netflix series Adolescence,
right,
where the parents were like, weren't we good parents? Didn't we get him a computer? How could we have known what was really going on?
Right.
So
you're not almighty as a parent. You're just doing the best you can. Hopefully you are.
But how did we get here? I mean, how did we get here about parents? I mean, because that's with anybody.
Well,
this
in my mind, Ella, we got here because I can see how important in your thinking, your epitaph, what people will say, like I was a good parent, I was whatever, like all that stuff, and I feel all that goes in with that, and hopefully it will be exactly as you want. But what I'm saying is that whether it's your children, your friends, your family, you don't have authority to tell them how they're going to, what they're going to say about you is what I'm saying.
But I don't think that was what he was trying to say. But in my obituary, I forgot about my daughter. So,
Right.
I mean, that point is kind of mute right there because I forgot, I hadn't even gotten to her. But I don't think it's nobody has control over what anybody says. And it's not what you think they're going to say. It's what you would like them to say. And so I thought that was what we were trying to do. But we don't have any control over that. And when it comes to kids, I mean, the parents are different depending on, when the kid was born. And so, you know, you can't take responsibilities for anybody's life, only your own.
Right. You're right about that. I'm not disputing that. What I'm saying is I'm trying to come to grips with my own ephemeral thoughts about that moment when people are going to say what they say about you and how important it is. So what's more important to me is like this moment right here and now, right? The moments that we share together, whether I feel like I walk away from that moment feeling like I gave the best of myself on that time, because that's all I can govern. I want to feel on my deathbed, no matter what's said, I did my best. I did, all the things that I thought were valuable. I did those things. And I'm less concerned about what people are going to say.
Look, when I start reflecting on this, I start thinking about things that people have said to me already. And it wasn't necessarily, and it was like how I think I want to live my life, but the things that people have said, oh, Ella, you're X, Y, and Z, because I could have gone to, thinking about all the things that people would say that weren't so good. So, I mean, for me, it was, from right now, from what I heard, this is what would be said. So,
Fine.
I'm just gonna leave that.
We should probably close this out.
Yeah.
So it's not a big reveal because we've all discussed what the purpose of the question was. It talks about what kind of life do you want to live? And when you think about our answers, it gets to, I want a life focused on this. And it's, Nick, you mentioned legacy focus. I mentioned legacy focus in a family way. Darren talked about, let me make sure I get it right. It was priorities and characteristics, the plaque. Nick also bought off on that as well. But when you think about it and take a step back, you're like, okay, is that how I want to live my life? Is that how I want to be remembered? And if so, are you doing that or are you deviating somewhere? So,
it's definitely worthy of all of us considering. Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, in my case, that really is how I try to live my life. So it is true to my nature, and that even before I knew those words were on the plaque, those were the things that I really aspired to.
Worthwhile, good stuff. I think everybody, if you've stayed with us, is about 50 or so minutes in. Hopefully, you're thinking about the life you're living and the words that will be said on your last day as well. So I think it's a worthwhile idea to consider, Ron. I appreciate you bringing that up for consideration. So I'm sure you've got something that you want to leave us with in parting. So what's that all about?
Yeah, so we'll call this a palate cleanser. On YouTube, there is this guy, and I cannot pronounce his name, but he does something called Subway Takes. And he sits on the subway and he has a cameraman. He interviews people, politicians sometimes, famous actors, and also just everyday people. I think I have a clip that gives you a snippet of the style and the humor and warmth of the way he films and asks people around New York these questions.
Got it. Here we go.
So what's your take?
Trader Joe's is a horrible grocery store and we should stop hyping it.
100% disagree.
Okay.
I think it's good.
Hear me out.
Okay.
Why does a grocery store need a learning curve?
What do you mean it has a learning curve?
There's like all these random brands and Trader Jojo's. Just give me Oreos. Give me brands. This is the point of shopping. Consumer trust.
Consumer trust.
Yeah, 100%.
Who talks like that?
You don't. Hold on.
This guy just said consumer trust.
Just give me the stuff I want. More importantly, and I know you're still shocked.
I'm shook.
You go to the frozen food section.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
You pick up some orange chicken. You're so happy. You're so excited. Trader Ming. Who the f is Ming?
Who the f is the Count Chocula?
A trusted brand.
No, there's no difference between Count Chocula and Trader Ming.
If I'm gonna get oatmeal, I want the old like Quaker looking guy.
You want that white boy?
He's black
white.
people oatmeal. I don't know. I would try it.
So your big gripe about it is that they don't have brands.
Here we go. There's a learning curve. You got to go and you got to try things. There's like whole tier lists of like Trader Joe's food.
Right.
So
You don't.
you guys get it. The guy, he'll always say 100% agree, 100% disagree, and it'll elicit a conversation. Just a funny channel that always puts a smile on my face when I hear them. So he's had people from the candidate running for mayor of New York, Zendaya, exactly, to Ira Glass from This American Life, to other Justin Bateman, as well as people like that are just everyday citizens. So highly
Who was the
recommend it.
random person?
Yeah.
Who was it? Was it the black guy or the white guy?
The black guy was the random person. The
Oh,
white
okay.
guy is the interviewer, and I forgot his name. It's in the show notes, and it's on the YouTube clip. Really funny guy.
Yeah, good stuff. I always like those man on the street, kind of channels where you're just getting real people responding. I like those almost as much as cat videos, but
Are you serious?
yeah, you know what? And you know what? I'm new to the cat game video game, because cats are crazy. I was like, man, they terrorize. I always thought dogs were they had the one up. Cats will they're ferocious. I'm crazy about it. But yeah, anyway, but the video that you showed around that equally entertaining.
Good.
So that's good stuff. So with that, we've run the gamut from the last days to how to spend some of your free time when you're on the internet. So you've got a lot to think about, and we look forward to any comments or feedback that you have. Of course, please do like and subscribe to our channel. I think this is indicative of a lot of the things that we like to talk about. So Ron, again, thank you for for bringing the subject. Ella and Darren, thank you for your wise input. And, we're going to do it all again real soon. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on We've Got Issues.